Man, I've actually watched the Vikings a couple of times, and it's just like I know they have a top 10 offense, if I'm not mistaken. So just like watching like Dalvin Cook hit the hole and like break for like a 60-yard run, it's like you're saying to yourself like, look, I want to be blocking for a guy like that. Seeing Kirk Cousins throwing like a deep ball to Justin Jefferson, and it's like explosive plays happening all across the field. From anybody who's on the field, like you want to play in that type of offense.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. That was Christian Darrisaw doing an interview talking about his intrigue with the Minnesota Vikings offense, of which he will be a part of this season. This is part one of an 11-part series where we're going to talk about all of the Minnesota Vikings rookies of this draft class, do a little bit more in-depth, sort of introduce the player to the audience, and then give my final thoughts and takes about the draft itself, where they were picked, and how I view that they can contribute this year. So, Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, gets picked round 1, pick 23. He was involved with the trade down with the New York Jets, if you remember. It's kind of wild to consider the fact that he was available at 14th overall, which is something that I felt was going to happen, and then we traded down, which is also something that I predicted was going to happen. I did not envision a scenario where Christian Darrisaw was going to be available at the 23rd overall selection, much less where the Vikings were going to be, and much less them selecting him, but it happened. It came to fruition. It was kind of concerning when the Raiders and the Colts were on the board, both teams needing offensive tackles, but luckily the Raiders are stupid and took Alex Leatherwood, and the Colts saved us from ourselves by drafting Kwity Paye. So, Christian Darrisaw comes to Minnesota with a PFF pass blocking grade of 94. That's the highest in the Power 5 conference in this draft. PFF run blocking grade of 90. That was 5th in this draft class. Did not give up a sack or a quarterback hit in 2020, and I believe that is something that drew a lot of attention to him during the process. He's being called a day one starter at left tackle by many, myself included. And even Mike Zimmer himself suggested as much, that he'll be this day one left tackle, although he did sort of try to walk it back a little bit by suggesting that he's going to have to come in here and earn his spot like everybody else does and has in the past, which makes sense. You don't want to just hand over the starting job just because they're the first round pick. You know, it doesn't really work that way, especially in this sport. I anticipate that he's going to go into training camp in preseason and knock it out of the park, because I believe he is already light years better than any option we had other than maybe Brian O'Neill. You know, I had no desire to see Rashad Hill being a starting tackle on either side of the offensive line this season. Mike Zimmer also says that he fits the zone scheme well that they run in Minnesota. He likes his size, he likes his athleticism, and he also talked about Darrisaw not giving up a sack last year. That was big praise from the head coach. Both Spielman and Zimmer mentioned throughout the process, you know, and this is more towards rookies in general as opposed to just Darrisaw himself, that they were happy to get to see some of these players this year because it gave them more opportunity, more film to watch. Darrisaw is one of those guys who played a full season for the ACC this year in Virginia Tech. Spielman also went on the record during one of the post-draft press conferences saying that he views Christian Darrisaw as a pure left tackle. And that's important because we don't want to mince words, or we don't want to have these ideas or start these rumors that there's potentially going to be a position change involving Christian Darrisaw. It sounds like he is solidified as a pure left tackle. That's where they're going to keep him. Mike Zimmer even said as much, where by bringing in Christian Darrisaw, they can leave Brian O'Neill alone, keep him at the right tackle position. They don't have to move him around. So that, to me, signals that he's going to be the starting left tackle for the Vikings, as long as he, comes in and proves himself and wins the job. The common complaint about Christian Darrisaw amongst scouts, I think we heard it on television, you read it in print, you saw it in the scouting reports, is that he's not a strong finisher. One of the best ways that I heard this described was that once his portion of the play is over and it's moved to the other side of the field, or the running play is broken into the secondary, he sort of just becomes a spectator. He doesn't chase the play. He doesn't finish his blocks. I think that that analysts and coaches themselves would like to see Christian Darrisaw get more physical, not just while he's participating in the play, like, turning a player to open up a run lane, but even after his portion, like his duty's over, he can do whatever he wants. But I think they want to see him knock more guys to the ground, get more aggressive, be a physical presence, and establish dominance, if you will, in the trenches. So that's one of the biggest negatives I've seen, and it's one of the most common ones that I've seen. So I figured I'd share that as well. So my personal take on the drafting of Christian Darrisaw itself, we'll do that first. All I can say is it's about time. The number of years that I have been waiting for us to not only address the offensive line, but to use a premium first-round draft pick on an offensive tackle is finally here. I've been waiting for it for years. I remember the first year that Kirk Cousins came into Minnesota, and once the season was over, we were 8-7-1. We missed the playoffs because we got embarrassed by the Chicago Bears in our own stadium to end the season in December. The first complaint out of everybody's mouth at that point was, when are we going to fix this offensive line, because the pass protection is piss poor? And then what makes me happy is that we go out and we get a offensive tackle with high pass blocking grades, one of the best from the Power 5 conferences to be available in the draft this year. So it finally feels like I can shift my focus and my criticism to other parts of the team and not just have to continuously bang the same drum over and over talking about the offensive line. I've been doing it for 3 years. I haven't been uploading to this channel for 3 years. I started on Facebook, but I have been just this has been like where most of the attention goes, and it's finally nice where we're gonna have positive attention go to this, and hopefully it will become a thing where we can brag about it, right? Be like, oh yeah, we got a top 5 offensive line. What do you guys have? You know, turn it into a point of something to be proud of, which is what I hope the end result is, and it begins with Christian Darrisaw. So it also shows that Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer are not these one-trick ponies where they're just like, cornerback is necessary, we got to get better on defense, right? They sort of did this thing where they split up the two sides of the ball. One was addressed in free agency, and then one was addressed in the draft for the most part. They had 11 picks, they spent 6 on offense. So it shows that, you know, it kind of feels like, as a fan, validation of all of the things that you saw and all the complaints that you had, and they're finally being taken into consideration, even though that's not how that works. They're doing what's best for the football team, and we just happen to finally agree with that. Lastly, it's great to come that they get Christian Darrisaw with the 23rd overall pick. I like the player himself. I was sort of settling for, in the pre-draft process, settling for potentially getting a Sam Cosmi or something like that, because I was convinced that Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, and Christian Darrisaw would all be off the board by pick 14, and we'd be trading down anyway, and then there wouldn't be much of anything left, because we would probably find ourselves behind a couple more teams that needed offensive linemen, most notably the aforementioned Las Vegas Raiders and Indianapolis Colts. But luck was on our side on the first night of the NFL draft, and we land Christian Darrisaw. That is my introduction / prospect profile, rookie profile for our first round pick for the 2021 NFL draft. Let me know what you think of Christian Darrisaw in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.